Hey, what's up, friend? Welcome to another episode of Mixed by 8i. I am Mixed by 8i from mixedby8i.vision. Yes, that is a real website. Today, I want to show you how to really get that oomph out of your kick and your bass. And it's a very simple trick. And if you read the title, you know by now it's the Pultec EQ. So I'll show you how I use the Pultec to get a sound that's pretty well known when using the Pultec EQ, but I take it a step further. So let's start off with listening to the song to hear what we're going to be trying to achieve today.
Riding through my city filled with paranoia. Seem like everybody trying to get their dough. If I have to up this bitch, I need a law. Doing all I can to keep my shit in order. Riding through the city filled with paranoia. Seem like everybody trying to get their dough. If I have to up this bitch, I need a law. Doing all I can to keep my shit in order.
Okay, so this is a song that I wrote about 2 years ago called Paranoia. And I never released the song, but I just play with it from time to time. And so I'm listening to this and I've changed the sound production probably about 2 or 3 times. But I like to think that this kick is amazing. Paired well with the sub bass. This is more like a sub bass than it is an 808. So we'll solo that and hear exactly what happened. Okay, so all I did on the way in is I just side chained it in FL Studio when I produced it. And so it's got kind of this, whenever the kick comes in, the bass gets a little bit quiet or it ducks under that. That's neither here nor there. The trick here is you can throw on a Pultec EQ. For the kick, I like to do at 60 hertz, and then I just crank this thing to oblivion and just gain stage on the way out. So listen to how this sounds when I do it this way. So you can really get a lot of punch out of that 60 hertz range. And then you can even just like attenuate it at the same time so you can get a little bit more of that bottom end. It's going to scoop out some of those mids to let a lot of that 60 hertz or around that 60 hertz to come through. And so that's a well-known trick with the Pultec EQ to boost and attenuate at the same time to get a really great sound. I thought about that and I was going to use that. So the other trick is to go into this bass, and I kept this. I just boost. I always boost around 100 hertz. I don't play with this 20 or 30 hertz like most people want you to do with the 808. My thing is, I filter out a lot of this because there's nothing but rumble down there. So when you're boosting around that area, it just sounds a little bit too muddy to me. Where I think the 808 shines and where you really hear the thump and the thud is a little bit higher, going up into the 100 and 250 hertz range and then distorting that. But that's neither here nor there. So I'm boosting. And I did keep this. I'm boosting at 100 hertz, and this says 3, but it's not by 3 decibels. And that's what makes this Pultec so amazing, because I can crank this up and I'm probably only getting about a 5 or 6 dB boost in the low end. And so it's really just creating a lot of thud. So if I take this off, this is what it sounds like without it. And here's with it. So you can just hear like the bottom just comes up a lot. And so it's just, it just creates this fat, just warm sounding bass. So I really love this technique. I decided to take it off of the kick. However, I want to show you guys a process that I kind of learned from Mixed by Ali. So the trick here is to add a kick and bass parallel aux track. And so I like to put it about right here after the kick and the bass, and I just route it, and I have it set to pre-fader, but that's so that we can hear what's happening. So I'm sending a copy of both the kick and the bass into this aux track so we can process it separately. And so here is where I would do the mix trick. And so I stick with these 60 hertz because we've already boosted in the bass at 100 hertz. I felt like this is where I wanted to get a lot more thump out of the kick. And so as you can see, I boosted this thing at 8. Like we're almost on 10 with no attenuation because I really want a lot of that smack coming from that coming out of that kick. And I got the bandwidth set to 7, which affects the high frequency. I went to the lowest setting on the high frequency, did a boost of about 7, and that to me sounds like it just opens up whatever frequencies occupy in that area for the kick and the bass. Keep in mind, like I said, we're affecting both the kick and the bass. The problem with adding a lot of this stuff is that when it comes to the low end, you really want to be careful because you can unintentionally increase your headroom. And so what I did here was just made sure, even though we have it on the aux track, I made sure that we gain staged. Okay, so let's hear what it sounds like beforehand, and then we'll hear what it sounds like with the Pultec added. That's before, after. So you can really hear like that kick just becomes super prominent, just amazing sounding. And so a lot of that 60 hertz in the bass is being bumped up too. So what I'm essentially doing is marrying the kick and the bass just a little bit more. And so, like I said, we got a boost on the 60 hertz, and then we have a boost on the 3000 hertz, and then we're gain staging on the way out. From there, I wanted just a little bit more smack, and I know that the easiest way to do that was to add parallel compression. So the idea behind this is I want just a little bit more smack out of the kick. What I did here was I cranked these settings to oblivion. We have a 0 on the threshold. We have a 1 on 1 millisecond attack, a 0.1 millisecond, a tenth of a millisecond release, and then we have a 10 to 1 ratio, and we're getting about 12 to 16, probably even 17, 18 dB of gain reduction. So I brought that back in at about 10. Let's hear how it sounds without it, and then I'll add it in. So it's a very, 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 very subtle effect. But again, the idea was to just get a little bit more punch out of this already great kick. And then what it's also doing is what the SSL bus compressor is famous for. It's adding just a little bit more glue to that kick and that bass. And so we have our levels set for the kick and the bass, and then we're just marrying it just a little bit more. But then I said, it's not enough. I just need to get a little bit more attack out of that kick. And so I just went and found a dedicated transient processor, and this is the Waves Smack Attack. And so I decreased the sensitivity because I only want to affect the kick and not the bass. And pretty much at this point with the bass, you're not going to have that much transient information anyway, but this is just one of those safety measures. And so finally, I felt like I got the sound that I wanted. So here's without the transient processor, and then we'll add it in. So it's just adding just a little bit more, and I really love it. The only reason you're not hearing a lot of it is because I blended it in after I did all of these effects, and so it's just adding a little bit more of that oomph to the sound. So here's without the entire process. And here's with it. Here's without. You'll see I didn't even need any distortion or anything like that. I just really got the sound that I wanted just using the Pultec and a couple of transient design techniques. So definitely try to use parallel processing when you're doing kick in 808. I think you'll get a far better benefit out of it than just trying to use the Pultec or any kind of processing on the kick and bass itself. It also boils down to your sound selection. So you definitely want to have your sound selection down pat.